Going to show you how to create a Azure network in this video. So to do that, we're going to go and use the Microsoft Azure portal here. And you're just going to click on this menu here. You can go to all services. And under here, you're probably going to be in the overview, but you might not because these are kind of remembered what you kind of select. But you just want to click network here, and then it's going to show virtual networks right there, okay? Or you can just search for it here and type in virtual networks, or up here either. It's just, I want to show you exactly how to get to this, okay? So once you get to virtual networks, you click create here. And then you have to choose your Azure subscription. So I have like a BoltOps Learn subscription set up here, and resource group. So you might already have a pre-existing resource group you want to use, and that's fine. I'm gonna actually create a new one here. I'm gonna call it Demo East US. Okay, now I just click OK, and then the name of the network. I'm gonna just stick to the same convention here, Demo Network. Okay, and then I want to keep the region to be the same here. So let's go find East US right there. Okay, so I want to point out before we click on the next button, there's a big blue button here. It's very tempting to click that, okay? But look, there's another button here in white, next IP addresses. So that button actually corresponds to like a next page wizard. You see, this is actually like a wizard. Basics, IP addresses, security tags, review, and create. It's very useful to click on this when you're first getting started, just so you can see what available options there are, okay? But sometimes you just click on review and kind of skip to the end if you're like, I already know exactly what you kind of need, okay? So I'm gonna click on next IP addresses here. And then now it's going to show us the IP4 space. So the Azure space here is just basically sets you up with some reasonable defaults here and gives you 65,000 IP addresses in this CIDR range right here. So that's cool. You can add the IPv6 space. I'm not going to add one here. And then here's the interesting part, subnets. So subnets, there's going to be a lot of different opinions on how you should basically deploy subnets here. And it just depends on your needs. Some people are okay with actually one big flat subnet. And here's the thing, the Azure network works a little bit differently from, let's say, like AWS network, okay, or VPC, or Google. Google and Azure, I would say, are close together in that you don't have to worry about zones. You don't have to worry about availability zones with Azure, actually. Because of that, it can be a little more simple, but at the same time, security groups work a little bit differently. With Azure, you have application security groups and network security groups, but application security groups are closer to kind of like, say, AWS security groups, but they're not exactly the same thing in that sense that essentially the database service offering doesn't allow you to use application security groups yet. So because of that, some people actually want fine-grained control of the subnets, okay? And then you have to have a subnet per application, and then that just increases some complexity there. So that essentially there's some trade-offs, okay? There's some trade-offs. So for this, I'm just gonna add, just so I can show you how to add another subnet, okay? I'm just call it app, okay? And then I'm just add another address range right next to the first one that was created in this wizard here, 24. So this is 10.0.0 and this is 10.0.1. So that's the very next subnet space or IP space right there, okay? Then you have to go down here, and here's NAT gateway. So I guess I should talk a little bit about NAT gateways. Okay, so with Azure, there's a default outbound access already without a NAT gateway. So basically, they do some magic behind the scenes, and even if you don't have a NAT gateway, your VMs, your compute instances essentially, are still gonna have access to the internet because Azure has done some extra magic for us, which is a good thing. And then basically, it can your instances without public IP addresses can still talk to the internet. So that's pretty nice. But so if you want a little more control over your NAT gateway, essentially your outbound IP address, then that's the kind of time when you want basically create a NAT gateway. Otherwise, you don't actually have to create it, and you don't have to actually pay for this. So that's actually kind of nice. Okay, that's actually advantageous in some ways, right? But disadvantageous again in other ways. So anyway, just kind of going through that. Now, next is the service endpoint. This is basically if you just want your communication to go basically directly to Azure service without going over the internet network. But we're gonna leave those all as is, okay? And then you have to make sure to click add. If you don't click add, then actually this doesn't actually tick, okay? So now that took, see? So that's kind of good. Next, security, okay. Security bashing host. So this is actually a pretty cool service. Basically, a bashing host will allow you to spin up, or it will spin up, Azure will spin up a box for you and act as the jump box or the bastion host. So you don't have to actually manage that. Azure can actually manage that for you. So this is very useful. Let's say if you have VMs without public IP addresses, the only way you can get to them is through a bastion host, through a jump box. Okay, so you can actually enable that and basically kind of have Azure manage that, which is really neat. DOS protection, standard firewall, DOS protection. This is extra kind of protection here from DDoS attacks. Okay, and firewall, it's more kind of like a WAF on AWS here, but I'm going to leave these all disabled. They just essentially cost all more money, okay? Next, tags. Tags are pretty explanatory there. Basically, key name values here and extra things you want to tag the resources with, okay? Now you click review and create, okay? Okay, so we're kind of getting there. It's validating essentially all these tabs right here that we just went through. And now it says, hey, validation passed. We're ready to create the network. So you just click create here, and it's creating the network now, okay? So what you're gonna get next is kind of like a status page showing the deployment is in progress, okay? So if this is gonna actually take some time to create, so I'll come back so y'all don't have to wait. Okay, so that finished creating. That was actually pretty quick. It's pretty quick to create Azure networks here. And then you actually, this is useful. Sometimes you can click, again, the big blue button, but if you want to click on deployment details, it shows you actually what I created here, okay? And you click on operation details and tells you a little bit more information about that. So you can click on go resources here, and now you're gonna be able to see the resource, basically the network. So here's the overview right here. The address space is right here. This is basically the default that we kind of use right there. And then subnets are right here. So subnets are right here, and here's the default subnet, and here's the app subnet here. And that's kind of pretty much it to kind of create a network. Azure networks are kind of simple in this way, and that's actually good in some ways, okay? That's pretty much it. So hopefully you found that just going through the portal helpful. Thanks.